What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Rugby Treehouse. Spring is springing here in the Northern Hemisphere, and women's rugby is heating up along with the planet, parentheses, bad. So let's get right to it. With me, as always, are my colleagues who don't get blocked by Millionaire Sevens players like I do. It's Sian and Hattie. What's up, Sian and Hattie?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Happy spring, everybody. And of course, importantly, happy week 5. We are finally almost done. It's finally week 5 of the Women's Six Nations, and we're that much closer to getting the wrap-up that has been brought of what has broadly been considered the weirdest and least fun Women's Six Nations we've had in a while. That's our opinion. But we've got lots to preview for the upcoming Super Saturday and kind of Sunday. So unless we have any opening business, which I don't think we do, we can get into our review of the last match weekend, which saw week 4, saw us France narrowly defeat Italy 34-21. England bested Scotland 59-7, and Wales fell once more to Ireland 40-14. So let's just go in order. And first up, we can take a look at France versus Italy. We kind of touched on it last week. What are we thinking about France, folks?
You know how I originally said a couple of weeks ago that France are having like one good half and one bad half? They've kind of transitioned now into having a bad first half and then like a good start of a second half. And then Pauline Baudon-Sansus comes off and then nothing happens for 20 minutes. Like they'll have good defense in the last 20 minutes, but they probably maybe only score like once. Nothing else really happens. They probably don't let in any tries, but literally nothing happens. And that's literally happened in the last 2 weeks. And
Absolutely.
It's just so
it's
inconsistent.
happening again. And it's like, okay, so obviously you're going into the sheds and you're having probably a kick up the backside from Pauline Baudon-Sansus.
From videos we have seen, that is likely what is happening.
But like, why, if you're, this is where I'm kind of like, should she be starting there? If she can't play a full 80,
And we don't know why, by the way. That's
and we
yet
don't know
something
why.
else. We'll get to France as a team communicating in a second, but sorry, go on.
If she can't play a full 80 and you're starting slow and she's your best player and you
I was gonna
don't do
say,
anything when she's not on the pitch, why does she not just come on in the second half? Like,
that's what I was gonna
just
say.
play
I'm
her.
looking like
It
I
doesn't
feel
make
bad.
any sense to me.
I don't remember their replacement. Is it Chambon? Is their replacement 9? And that's another problem, is that like,
I think it's Shamble.
yeah, and so I mean, we're ones to talk, being, nominally French or nominally Welsh fans. We're ones to talk because the one thing our team happens to be good at is making 9s. But I wish we knew more about that, and more broadly, only, I bring it up not to, beat a dead horse or anything, but only because we mentioned it last week and it seems like it's only gotten worse. And actually, I did see some French language coverage of this finally, that like something isn't working. I'm happy to see that it seems like a French, just comments that I've seen on the episodes of their weekly YouTube thing that all the teams do. It seems like other people are starting to think that it's something with coaching. But we have no communication out of it at all. And it's just leaving people frustrated. And I'm starting to wonder if that's seeping into the players because they don't look happy.
Nope.
I do also wonder if it's the like 9-10 combo generally as well. Like if it's Arberes, because Arberes is quite a
Correct use of the term mercurial, I would say.
yeah, like she's your stereotypical French back, I think, is the best way I could possibly put that. Or mercurial. Like she's just like 1990s French rugby.
it's just not, it's not predictable. And it's not that you necessarily should be predictable, but like
Yeah,
for,
and
yeah, for playmaking, you have to be at least a little bit predictable so people know where to be.
yeah, and like when Pauline Bourdin-Sansus is on the pitch, France play almost entirely off nine, and Arbez will basically
Do
only
the same.
take the ball if she wants to, and 50% of the time it works, 25% of the time and 25% of the time it's absolute genius. When there's that change, and I am going to butcher her name, but the fly half replacement, is it Kuroy, comes on?
Oh, Kara, yeah.
Yeah, comes on. It's a completely different change. It's
They do not play the same.
and
And
that's why I'm kind of like, is that the change? Is that because they're changing so much mid-game, or like what is it that's not working? That's
it's interesting.
that in that
I'm glad you
yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I am curious now. It's something that I've worried or that I've wondered rather already. And the answer kind of seems okay. So the question is, who is the playmaker? I understand that the answer is going to be PBS, which okay. I don't want to be a hypocrite because again, my 9 is Kira Bevan. But there are pitfalls to that being your hinge. Ideally, you want your 10 and or your 12. I can't say that when Vernier isn't on the pitch, which was, I think, half of the Six Nations, she hasn't been playing. I don't know who it is, if not Bourgeois, but she's playing 15. You can't. I know that I am not a backs play master, but even I can see there's no plan. I'm curious if there's something I'm missing that maybe you guys saw.
No, I don't think you're missing anything. I think, well, you just nailed it, really. They do look like they don't have a plan. And sometimes they will look, honestly, I hate saying it, like how inconsistent they are, but like they will play some good stuff sometimes, and then the rest of the time it's terrible.
That's the thing is though, they're still French. Like it hasn't taken away from that.
No, and I think in a way they kind of remind me of Wales a little bit. I know this sounds a bit weird, but they're kind of like, obviously they're better with the ball in hand, but like at times they look a bit like Wales. Like they kind of
No,
like they don't have much of a
I know
game
exactly what you
plan,
mean.
or they're just, but because I think they're France and they've got sort of like bigger pack and bigger players are getting away with it a bit better.
Yeah, and I think they've obviously they've got co-captains, and
Mhm.
Marie Menegé is a co-captain and she's playing 13, whereas traditionally she's maybe been a winger. She's come in at
Mm.
13. She is a co-captain, but I don't necessarily know what I don't think that there's a leadership position in that back line apart from PBS. Like I don't, if
Yeah,
you take her out, it's not like when Tremoulier was there, you knew
that's
Yeah.
that was exactly where I was going to go with it. Was
that
you still know?
there was a strong thing, and I think Bourgeois is getting there. I think
That's where I was going to go.
she is coming through as that kind of Jessie Tremoulier replacement that they've really
Exactly.
needed. But she's not yet there yet. She's still really young, and a lot of those players in that back line are really young. Vernier is not that type of player, and I know we were talking sort of offline about this earlier on today that not every player needs to be a leader, and that's fine. Vernier does not need to be a leader. She's there to
And
be a
it burdens them.
yeah, and she's there to be a star player, not a leader. Um,
Same with Crusade.
yeah, but Menage, I don't see what she's doing as a leader, and it just seems very disconnected and very like. So I think when PBS goes off, and then you have that change where it goes from 9 being the playmaker to 10 being the playmaker, it just becomes very disjointed. And
Yeah.
I think
They're
that's
playing
where
like,
the
When the 10
last
is
20
our
minutes kind
best.
of falls apart.
yeah, they play like individuals. I think that's the
Exactly.
thing, isn't it? And yeah, as soon as Pauline's
That's
gone,
coaching.
everything's hanging off.
And that's
Mhm.
coaching. That's where I was going with it.
It's
And
never a good thing.
the thing is like we would if we were to dive back into it right now, we would probably say exactly what we said last week, which isn't good. The fact that we don't have anything to add on to it, I mean, not what we said. There are bright spots and less bright spots. The only reason that we would hammer on this at all is because the match coming up is the most important for them. And we're going to go into our preview in a second, but the preview is probably going to hinge a lot on what we're saying here. And that is without consistency, no matter how weakened or to what extent the Red Roses might look. It won't matter if there is no coherent game plan, and I don't see one.
I mean, to be fair to Italy as well, I do think in terms of the game on the weekend, I think I've underestimated Italy a little bit.
I was going to say, the only reason we're harping on France at all is because, at least as far as I know from our conversations we've had, our input for Italy was much improved. It looked much more coherent this time. I don't know if they have the same communication problems with the rugby world. We don't know exactly what's going on, but I don't have a lot of notes for Italy in terms of like critique. It looked really improved, especially against such a disjointed France. Sure made it look good. They sure had a chance for most of that match.
Yeah, I think the difference is that Italy scored all 3 of their tries in the first half and went in at half time ahead.
Really, with their heads up, yeah.
Yeah, and Sillery managed to get all 3 conversions this week, whereas against Scotland she missed. Against Scotland she missed 4. She got 1, but she was out of time on one of them, so it didn't count.
Yeah, God.
Which is just annoying. And I think we'll get into it later, but that kind of changed that changed the dynamic a lot with them going in up at half time. And I think that really put France, put their backs up a lot. And they knew that they had to come out kind of guns blazing, I guess. It still took them a while to get going in the second half, but
you contrast that to Wales when we conceded that try just before half time.
And it also blew the wind right out.
It completely
did the same.
I think France are a very momentum-y team, if that's not even a word, but you know what I mean. And I think, yeah, you're right. I think it was that momentum against them, that side. It kind of, I don't know, it spooked them a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be, I don't think, in a way, you kind of can't stop Italy. Like, it feels kind of inevitable that they're going to score, like, at least 1, if not 2, like, incredible backs tries, maybe a
backs tries
try
is what you can rely on.
They're going to score those big tries. What you maybe can't predict is whether or not they're going to convert it, but what you have to do is score more tries than them.
Right.
And
it shouldn't, your game plan generally shouldn't hinge on whether or not they can hit conversions in general.
Yeah. But that was the Zebra plan beforehand, and that's why they never won.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. But interesting fact from that game, which we did tweet out, which I think is a good fact, is that it's the third time in history that the Menage twins have scored in the same international test match.
And not only that, they are the only pair of twins who have hit 3.
Yes, all the other have done it twice.
Man twins have only been twice.
Yeah, 2 sets of man twins have done it twice, but they are the
Menage twins. I know you're both huge fans of the pod.
Yeah,
heads up.
Well done.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and they've done it in the same in the same year, because they did it in WXV against the USA, and then they did it in the Six Nations in 2019 against Ireland.
Yeah.
So very cool.
It is very cool. Less cool as we move on. Less cool to basically everybody. For me personally, I don't have a ton more to say about this one. England beats Scotland 59-7. A lot of what we feared from Scotland came to fruition, in my opinion. I feel like I'm going to have more to say about Scotland when we look at the preview rather than review this one. I feel like, for me, everybody's England week is kind of like a free pass for me, like really digging into your player. Like, what do you do? I don't feel like England are inevitable. However, I do think that the problems that we have feared with coaching and with depth have, like I said, come to fruition. How about you guys?
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about it. It kind of felt inevitable in a way.
They started off strong, which is great. It has seemed like that has been the case for everybody who's played against England so far. I don't know what it is. I think that England does. I think that England does have an attitude problem. I think that they come into every match now with the confidence. The confidence is great. Whatever. I cheer for Wales. I wish we had more confidence. However, you don't win on it, and England wins on other things that kind of don't surprise anybody at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching the match and I was like, this is like, it was getting painful. And I
Yep.
think I saw quite a lot of people after the game, even like England supporters, like a lot of kind of Leicester Tiger fans who had gone to the game, who had said, like, I didn't enjoy it. Like, it wasn't a good game of rugby to go and watch.
No.
And I have to agree with them, like, it wasn't enjoyable to watch. I went and had a look at the stats earlier, and they were
I'm curious what you saw.
they were bonkers. So, like, for example, England made 128 tackles and missed 7. Scotland made 162 and missed 34.
Yeah.
Carries 136 versus 84. And then this is the absolute worst one. Meters carried.
Yeah.
England carried 1,031 meters, and Scotland carried 356 meters. Defenders beaten, England 34, Scotland 7. Like, this is literally, if you go through the stats, like, that's just what it's like. It's like England, absolutely insane number. Tiny number. Like, it's like at least double, if not 3, 4, 5, 6 times the number. Like, it's obscene. Line breaks 12 versus 2.
Good friend of the pod, sometimes host of the pod, Hugh, was actually recently, go check them out, recently dropped his, I forget what they're called, the spider graphs. I don't remember, the ones with the little lines everywhere. Scotland's wasn't good. The wrap up there wasn't good. None of the numbers
was Wales
worked
against England that bad?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, and that was his comment on it, was Wales did have a horrible performance against England, but not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad, but not.
Yeah. The thing I thought was really interesting is that England usually have like horrendous discipline. Like, they will pull out these incredible performances, but they have horrendous discipline. Like,
and they have horrible error
we
counts,
played them like 2 years ago, and at one point we were playing against 13 women because they were just like getting yellow carded left, right, centre. But they only had 4 penalties, and only one of them was defensive, which I thought was really interesting.
That is interesting.
I think that was interesting, and especially considering the rugby sphere chatter about who was playing at different times for England and whether or not they brought their B side. Again, that's always the conversation now. Nobody can agree on what their A side is, or what their top side is, but sure, every lineup that doesn't have some England fans' favorite player is not their best lineup. That was the argument again with Scotland, and honestly, what you were saying about the stats aligns with, for me, what I saw. Like, I don't want to give them any credit. Like, it's the typical England consistency, but like, that's not a good thing for me. But it's obviously not a bad thing. I really hope France brings it. We'll talk about that in a bit, but
just don't want it to be boring.
yeah. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, most cancelable women's rugby podcast out there, so we can say it anyway. It's a boring team to watch. We aren't the first, by the way, to say that. That's not an us thing. There are plenty of fans of plenty of countries who are sick of just seeing the same wins.
I did get bored with the Scotland game last week.
Yes, particularly this one. I feel like.
But Captain Dr. Rachel Malcolm did say today that it's important to keep your hookers dry, and that's what she learned from.
No, okay. So see, I saw that, and I saw that we were joking about it in the chat, but you guys got it wrong. It's keeping your balls dry for your hookers. And I feel like if somebody had nailed that joke, like, for example, if you had a hooker write it, we could have nailed it. But it's important to keep your balls dry for your hooker, for when you see your hooker, which is what she did. Go check those pictures out, folks. Don't leave the podcast.
Wild ride.
You're in for a wild ride. It's 3 pictures and it's Rachel Malcolm being
like,
yay!
Funny. Oh no, hang on.
Yay! This sucks. Oh, it's bad.
Oh.
kind of like how it went. So we can move right into yet another amazing performance from our Wales girl. From our Wales girls. Wales did end up losing to Ireland 40-14. For me, it was an improved performance. I know that sounds trite to say. There were improvements. Those 14 were 14 good points. In my opinion, rigged ref. I feel some of those points Ireland didn't get necessarily. That's one woman's opinion that has two other women on her podcast who agree with her. But you guys, I'll stop there until I have something better to say.
The first 20 minutes were great. Were more than great.
Which is better than we've had.
Yeah, exactly. And things were kind of, I was a bit like, oh, we've only been playing 20 minutes. It feels like an hour. I was at the game and I remember looking at the time, and I was like,
the overarching.
How is it only 20 minutes? It feels like they've been playing for hours.
You did text us at halftime. I think you were like going to the bathroom or whatever, but you were just like, I feel like I've been here all day.
And I thought Wales were doing a lot of things right. Lakey George was kicking really well. We were attacking. We looked
Great
like
day for her.
backs are playing really well. And then like after 20 minutes, things started to fall apart. And
one of our tries was a backs try.
Both of our tries were backs tries.
Oh, both. My bad.
It was like a miracle. It was like a Christmas miracle.
It was. Hannah said she would deliver us backs tries.
And neither of them were by Hannah.
Oh. Well, things that also didn't surprise us. But that's okay.
Two key things.
The Karis Cox try in particular. Karis Cox, if you're listening to us, banger try.
I think she's been robbed from not nominated for Six Nations.
I agree.
Completely robbed. Completely robbed. Completely agree. And by the way, if we can give ourselves a little pat on the back, which I'm going to, we have always said that Karis plays her best rugby in the centers, and we were right. I just like to point out
this week, but
what
she didn't play. No,
on the wing. It was Courtney. CK.
It was Courtney Key.
It was Codney. Codney. I hope that you also listened to it. And now it just occurs to me that if you don't follow her on social media, what I just said doesn't make sense. Never mind. One time she was at the Cardiff airport and she said her name was Courtney, and the Starbucks person wrote Codney, which is a name for sure. Anyway, she's Codney to me.
If only she scored, they could have called it Codney Parade. Anyway, that was a terrible joke.
And then Hannah Bluck came on and she scored a Brit on Thunder try.
She did. Yeah. That was our collective reaction to that try. It was very Brython.
Yeah.
It was.
But,
which no, I think
later. We'll get to later. We won't spoil
later.
I just genuinely thought at halftime the scoreline wasn't a fair reflection on the actual game.
Not at all.
And typically for Wales, we conceded 2 tries right before halftime. I think one literally on halftime.
Yeah.
When a few minutes, like 10 minutes before. It's like 1 try's bad enough at that time, but to the 2, it was just like, come on. But after that first 20 minutes, we started conceding penalty after penalty after penalty, and it was a car crash from there.
Okay, yes, but I'm going to say this, and I'm going to cash in collectively for our pod. I'm going to cash in all of our many, many podcast episodes where we have never once ref complained. I know that all of us have separately other times said, like, don't be a ref complainer. They don't win or lose games. And they didn't. She didn't win it this time either. That's not what I'm saying. Several of the tries were good. Not all of them were good. In my opinion, not all of those pens were pens.
Ireland were the better side.
Ireland were the better side. Yeah, no argument there. However, I'm sorry. I would be lying if I said that we didn't say in our private chats that the officiating was different.
It felt
we had 18 penalties,
which didn't feel
officially. And I say this as somebody who used to shithouse a lot. I do not understand where they came from. She was blowing the whistle, and we were in the chat, and we were like, I don't understand how that was a penalty. And I'll also say, Ireland.
Well, several times we were like, what does she mean? What does she? Because like we'd watch it on replay, and it was like, where?
Yeah, and like Ireland also had 11 penalties, which a lot of them were in like the last 20 minutes when they didn't score anything.
Yep.
And again, even some of those, I was like, I don't know what you're blowing for.
Yeah,
And at one point,
and it upsets me because I'm
Alexander went up
really
to
not
her
a
and
ref
was
complainer.
like Alexander went up to her at one point and was like, what are you blowing for? Like, could you please explain to me?
Well, one time I think it was she didn't call time off, but she was about to call time off because Alex, like, and Alcal is also not a ref botherer, which is another great thing about her as a leader. But like, if she's coming up to you and being like, please explain it. Alcal is asking you to explain. It's not somebody who's like brand new.
And like she explained, and then Alcal was like,
I didn't get it.
And Alcal, like, she explained, so it was basically about like the formation of the ruck. And
right. No, I remember. And I was historically a ruck shithouser, so I thought I would understand and I didn't, and that's the only reason I bring it up.
And then the ref explained her reasoning behind it. And Alcal was like, basically said, that doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Not in those words, but essentially said that. And the ref went, no, that's what I'm doing. And
yeah, no, she said, I know, but that's how it is. Or she said, I know, but that's what it is.
Seriously.
Essentially, yeah. And Alcal went,
all right.
So can I do this? And she went, no.
It's tough. It is tough. Like, it is tough. I don't like.
It's a tough game to referee, also. In really fairness, and we've talked about that too.
I genuinely don't like bashing referees because I honestly think they have an impossible job.
Exactly.
I
think a lot of this does lie on that. And actually, we've complained about that a bit as well. Also, World Rugby is not doing anybody any favors by changing a bunch of things rapidly, rolling out tests. And I mean, this can be another episode. We don't need to get into this now. But they are also being given an impossible task. They're being rotated among competitions all the time. There is an argument to be made that they're focusing on the wrong things when they put ref teams together.
Yes, agreed. And they seem to be making the laws even more convoluted half the time. It's like
yes, and they do it under the auspice that they say to everybody that we are doing this to make the game more fun and faster.
Really,
more fun for who is my question. It's not fun when everybody is mad all the time. That's
there were many times when I don't know, both teams seem to have the ball up penalty. Like
it was just
frustrating.
Yeah, it was hard. There were a lot of fans frustrated in the ground.
And it was like Wales weren't putting any phases together because the whistle was just blowing.
And in complete defense of Ireland as well. Same.
Yeah.
It was impossible to get momentum going. That was a theme across the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Ireland, didn't they say that they were frustrated with how they were playing? And I did wonder if part of that was because of that.
Well, I was going to say, and it speaks to how you felt at the time, like it was taking a lot more time than it was. And I agree. And ultimately, doesn't that defeat your purpose? Shouldn't you reconsider?
And I think part of the result ended up being that Ireland at the moment are a lot more mentally resilient.
Yeah.
And so, they've had,
and I think that's going to come to us too, by the way.
Yeah, like they've had a lot more wins recently. They're a lot more, kind of cohesive as a group. They're a lot more mentally kind of put together than we are.
Absolutely.
We've not had, we had the win against Japan, but it was iffy. And we had a win against Spain, but like didn't really mean anything.
And then the win we negated against Australia.
Yeah, we had that win that was a fluke.
And then got our asses beat.
And then we had the bullying. So like all of that is redundant. So, and then we're constantly getting beaten all the time. Whereas like Ireland have had that incredible win against New Zealand, which, we could argue about.
Right, but regardless of it, but the important thing, and this is why as a Wales group of fans, we bring it up because there's a good chance. I mean, there is every reason to believe there is a chance this will also happen to Wales.
Yeah.
They also got all of the muck out, which is what happened about 1.5 to 2 years ago for Ireland. As Ciara Bevan said in that fantastic hit for BBC Wales, there is a chance that it can happen for them by August. That would be a really accelerated timeline, but there's a chance that it could happen.
I do think Wales played better on Sunday, which a lot of people probably think, what? But given the score,
no, I agree.
I think we did play better. My main concern really for Sunday was how Ireland outmuscled us in the pack, because that was my main concern. We've been worried about the backs not really sort of performing, but actually I thought it was kind of the other way around on Sunday. I don't think that was just no,
but we really felt things like missing Cecilia, for example.
Yeah, and I think
missing Alicia
seemed fitter and stronger. I don't know. That's how it felt at the game. I just felt like, I know Wafer is amazing, but it wasn't just her. It wasn't just
sure. And also there's only so much that you can control at 8, so you can't really blame it. Well, no, I'm just saying that you can't blame the dominance on her.
No, exactly.
I mean,
it was clearly a whole pack effort.
Last week we spent a relatively large amount of time kind of talking about like balancing the back row and who should be playing in the second row, and having a 6-2 bench, and we don't know who's playing this weekend because the game has been moved to Sunday and blah blah blah. And the team list came out, and for some bizarre reason Alcal played at 8, and then Georgia was playing in the second row, and Georgia is the world's smallest second row. Like, she's barely taller than I am, and I'm like,
this is a Wales theme as well. So is Natalia John. Why is Natalia John constantly in second row?
She's like 5'8".
It's a Wales theme.
Like, we're playing quite small. Like Abby Fleming again, like 5'9". Like, they're not big. The only one of our second rows that's big is
Allow. Who is a baby.
Yeah, he was a child.
You can't rest everything on her. Gwen Crabb isn't small, but
she's still only like 5'8", 5'9".
Not huge.
She's not massive, is she? Like,
no.
You know what I say? I work past all these players and they look tiny.
Yeah. Like, we don't have, to be fair, like Ireland don't particularly have like that tall of players either, but like, because we
unfortunately in their second row they do, but yes, sorry, go on.
Dorothy Wall's not that tall. She's like 5'8".
Ruth Campbell isn't, wasn't it? Ruth Campbell and Fiona Toot?
No, it was Dorothy Wall and Ruth Campbell.
Oh, okay. Well, this weekend upcoming, it's Fiona. But
like, we moved Georgia Evans in, and then you had Al Callan. Like, that was a really small pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't like.
And then you're missing Cecilia, and you've got Jenny Scobell, and Jenny Scobell is, although we love her and we love Jenny Scones, very small.
Absolutely.
Like, it was just a smaller pack.
Love to know what the weight difference was actually.
And you know what? That is something that I really miss, especially, again, I've talked about it on other episodes with you guys, but you have gotten me started watching men's rugby, and that's one thing that
they're always going on about.
Well, they always have that cool visual in the bottom, and I wonder all the time. I feel like in women's it's even more crucial because there are really large differences. I mean, obviously, I have seen men's rugby before. I understand that, like, you can have a tiny guy and a giant dude on the same team, absolutely. But for women, like, our weight differentials matter a lot in how our bodies perform.
I feel like sometimes they have it in England games.
I've literally never seen it with women.
I've never seen it. I don't think.
I could be wrong though.
I think you've got men on the brain, Hattie.
Maybe.
Ooh. Yucky.
I just feel like it was we talked about it offline after it happened, but we didn't understand why Alcal played at 8, and then I was like, oh, is this a big move? And then after it happened I was like, no, that was a bad move. And then and I hope she's not playing there this weekend.
I think that was Alcal's sort of quietest game in a long time, and
and
the ref didn't like her either. We should also point this out.
Sorry.
Yep. The ref seemed to, I mean, other than whatever else we've said, it did seem like she was individually targeted.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't played for quite a while, so I'm
knocking the rust off.
I kind of feel like starting her was a bit risky anyway.
We were all shocked.
Alcal's such a high standard. We got used to Alcal playing at that ridiculously high level every game. She's so consistent. She doesn't quite match that, and it feels like she's off the scale. You know, it's hard for her, but I just don't think having her at 8 worked at all. It was a risk, maybe a tactic that that Sean Lynn thought he was going to get away with. It didn't work, unfortunately.
Well, I mean that.
Our
Oh,
kicking
sorry.
game was sensational.
Much better than it
I
has
thought
been.
was
Yeah,
in
because
in the bit of a zone on Sunday.
yeah, Lakey had her best game. So it was supposed to be KP. She dropped out like an hour before and ended up being Lakey. And she had her best game in forever, which I think had to
I
do with
think
Courtney
Which is
keeping
great.
12.
Yeah.
she played
I was
really
just gonna
well
say it's having CK.
against Italy last year in the last game. Flaky had a good game.
She
That's,
outplayed Dana, which was big praise.
yeah, definitely.
Which is what we wanted. And actually, I mean, unless we have more on that match, actually, I feel like it leads us really well into what we're looking at going forward. Okay, great. Then in that case, we'll move right along. We're going to preview now Super Saturday, now with more Sunday. And we're going to see Scotland play Ireland. England will play France in Le Crunch. And then, as Hattie had said earlier, Requiescat and Pacem to the decent Pope. You had a good run. Unfortunately, your funeral is on Saturday. And I got to learn through all of this that that they have to care about that, which is crazy because I didn't know that he was a world leader. However, he is. So the game is now 12:30 p.m. On Sunday, Italy time, which means 11:30 a.m. for the UK, and much earlier for me. If I do have any North American listeners, it's going to be 6:30 a.m. our time. So, with that said,
So
I
if
think you'll
JD
probably.
Vance wants to watch, seeing as it's his fault that the game's been moved.
Oh, JD Vance, I know that you care a lot about Europe. You believe in them. You believe that they're worthy people. And I know especially that you respect women. So I know that you're probably watching this. You believe in women in sports, keeping them safe.
Yeah.
God bless. That said, I actually don't know where JD Vance is from, but I'm sure it's one of these nations playing. Seems pretty white. So Scotland team, Scotland and Ireland will be playing. The big news that we have for that match before we get into a tiny bit of a preview is Aoife Wafer is confirmed out, which is unfortunate. Obviously, we wish Aoife was there.
It's all right,
Scotland,
they replaced her with another Aoife.
they found another Aoife. We really hope she does the same thing. Scotland team sheet is also out. It is not as encouraging as we had hoped, but the good news is that Rachel Malcolm is back.
It's a good backline.
It's a good backline. Yeah, that's true. My concern there, and this is another one, I wish I had more to say. I think it's going to be, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a consummate Ireland win for this one. I think Ireland has the wind at their back right now. I was just looking at this. If it's at home, girl, it's a wrap. Oh, it's not. It's in Scotland, so that's nice. For me, unfortunately, I feel like Scotland doesn't have it right now.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to find out more after the fact. Even Rachel Malcolm came out, Nelly came out after the last match, and they hinted very lightly that something just isn't working. That was what we expected as well. I'm interested to see, Scotland is very different from, for example, Italy or France. I think when Scotland figures out what happened, that they will telegraph it to the wider audience.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for it. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I think Ireland will win this one fairly comfortably. Probably could be a similar scoreline
To Wales, yeah.
to Wales. I think the pack will be way too physical for Scotland.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it'll be. I think we mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think Ireland were actually a little bit disappointed with their performance against Wales, and I think that
I think so.
I think that they will want. I think that will spur them on a little bit more this weekend. Oh, Scotland on paper again are not performing, so it's kind of sorry. On paper,
Looks great,
much
aren't
better
performing, yeah.
than they're actually performing. So yeah, yeah, I'm sad about it, but
I think when you look at the team sheet, it speaks volumes. Like you've got Ireland who feel confident enough to have a fresh cap, like brand new first capper at 15.
15
They've got a brand new cap, potentially
on the bench.
for a debut on the bench, and a second capper as well coming off the bench. But otherwise, that bench is really, really stacked, and really anybody else on the bench has started or could start. And
I
could
think
start
they're
right in.
thinking the World Cup. I think they're already.
I think they're eyeing the
I
World
think
Cup.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They're kind of expecting to win, and they're just, oh, we need new players, get new caps.
Which I think is quite smart.
Hardly any.
Yeah.
I don't. No, I'm not having a go at Ireland. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's what they're thinking majorly about the World Cup now.
Yeah, like one of their kind of trouble positions is that 15 jersey, and Stacey Flood has had injury issues this year, so it makes sense. And then Claire Bowles, who had her first cap last week, and then Jane Clossy, there we go, have both been standout performers in the AIL and then in the Celtic Challenge, and have both taken on leadership positions in both of those. So again, it makes sense.
Two great success, I will add.
Yeah. Claire Bowles, I believe, is captain of Wolfhounds, or
which not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. And then when you look at Scotland, you look at their 15, like their starting 15, and you're like, that's a solid 15.
But that's the best you've got.
That's the best you've got. You then look 16, 17, you're like, yeah, you've got Martin and Young, you're like, solid.
Great.
And then 18 to 23.
We don't, by the way, know where Katie Matt is, who I think should actually be starting over Leah Brebner Holden. That's my take. It doesn't matter. It seems now she's injured.
Got a concussion issue.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better news for the World Cup, at least.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know where Alex
Stewart
is either.
Yep.
I was going to call out Alex Callender then, but no.
They can't all have her.
No.
Stewie, another great in the sport.
It's quite a Scottish name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And like Evie Will's great player, but like again, really, really struggled with injury a lot and hasn't really featured a lot for Scotland. So it's just a very like putting together a bench of just this is who we've got.
This is who we got.
And like
and we don't say, and I would just like to stress, this pod doesn't say that lightly because it's a condition that Wales often faces. We only say that because it's something we recognize. Like, we know what a team sheet that is saying that looks like.
It is literally like they have gone, we've got 40 players in our training squad, and these are the 23 that are fit.
That are healthy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, which isn't the position you want to be in, but at the same time, if we are extremely pragmatic and if we are looking to the future and we have to be this close out from the World Cup, who gives a shit about the Six Nations? Like, it sucks. It matters much more if you end up doing really badly at the World Cup. That's what people will remember, and hopefully that's what Scotland has in mind. Hopefully there's a plan for depth. And again, I don't say that in like in a mocking way, because it's something that I also worry for my own team. So I know what that kind of panic looks like, and that's how it looks to me.
But like, you can definitely tell this is the case because Jay Conkle-Roberts is in the second row.
Yep. Which is honestly like one of the Scottish panic maneuvers.
Yeah.
Putting Georgia in a lock, really.
Exactly. No, I mean, but it is.
Like, it is literally like we have no one else.
But truly, Georgia Evans, there are a lot of parallels actually you can draw between Georgia Evans and Jade Conkle-Roberts if you are inclined to do so. Yes, actually, the number one place I'd rather have is 8, if not 6 or 7, if not 5. But if she got the 5, you're in trouble. I think that's what we're saying. All right. Then I guess technically the one that everybody cares the most about, Lacrunch. What I have to say, And right, and we've talked about this, and we actually asked our French friends, and the answer was resoundingly, I don't know. So, je sais pas, was what we heard. So I don't know. The answer, however, to La Crunch was no, because crunch is for sure not feminine. So, with all that said, my only comment for this one, just because I do think it will end up being an England win, what I would like to say is, and I hate to call this out because these are obviously like professional rugby people and I'm not, or whatever. I've been seeing a lot of talk on the media sphere about how it's going to be another walkover. It's going to be England by 30 points or whatever. No, it's not. I mean, I'll feel stupid and we'll clip this up later if I'm completely wrong, but like, I don't think so. That's not how it's been going for them so far. And then we got the team sheets and it doesn't look astounding. We were talking earlier that we don't know necessarily what they consider their like top side. But I don't think this would be it. Which means either they're super confident, overconfident, or they're in trouble. Either way, my prediction is an England win. And I'm sorry, I think it'll be boring.
We've missed out the
Yeah.
headline, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Come on.
please, sorry. Which
Drum roll,
one?
please. Drum roll. Is that Ellie Kildunn is out.
Ellie
Yeah.
Kildunn is out. Well, you're right, and
Everything
you're
is-
right. I totally did miss that headline, and it's only because, in my opinion, an equally, if not better, I won't say better. Ellie Kildunn has had a really great Six Nations yet again. I won't say better, but I really rate Emma Singh. I don't see a problem there at all.
I said this in the group chat the other day, and I'm
Yeah.
going to say it, and I'll be the second person on our podcast to get cancelled this week. Is it's a bit like Bowden Barrett, and I keep comparing people to men's players, but this is a good analogy, I think. Is like
I'm very curious why. Please go
like
on.
8 years ago, right? Bowden Barrett was the best men's
He was
player
the it
in the
man.
world. However, he was not the best fly half in the world. Right. And that's kind of how I feel.
You're gonna get canceled.
That's kind of how I feel about Ellie Kildunn. Like she's obviously
She's not
World
the best
Player of the
15
Year.
in the world.
She's World Player of the Year. You can't argue with that. She was given that award. However, she's not the best fullback in the world, and she's not utilised as a fullback by England. She's utilised as like a third
winger.
Yeah.
Whereas Emma Singh is used as a fullback.
Emma
Yes.
Singh is like technically the
The
brilliant.
best.
I think that she is, and when we say technically,
even
and when we
John
say
Mitchell
technically,
said-
we mean by technique. Yes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is what I mean. Like if you were looking for like an out and out fullback, Emma
That's what I'm
Singh
She ticks
ticks
all
that
of your
box
fullbacky
better.
boxes.
Absolutely no one has the backfield kick and ball control that Emma Singh does. I don't think that Ellie does.
And even John Mitchell said in an interview like earlier on today, Emma Singh was the best fullback in the PWR this year.
Yeah, he
Correct.
did say that.
Which
That was
leads
where
me
I
to
was.
the
That was where I
question,
was going to go with
why
it. Is
was
that
Ellie
Emma Singh is
Kildunn
the
starting
15
over Emma Singh?
because
I
she's
think
Ellie Kildunn.
Yeah.
Emma Singh gets overlooked a lot, and I think she did start to get a bit more attention in the PWR in
Your PWR.
season. She scores some amazing tries. They might
It's
not
because she's
like,
unarguable when you watch her at PWR. Like there's no debating it.
But Emma
And I feel
Singh
like-
also isn't contracted, and Ellie
Right.
Kildunn is.
Isn't that nice?
interesting.
Isn't that nice?
She's also a great goal kicker.
Yeah.
Right.
I genuinely don't want to sound like I'm hating on Ellie Kildunn.
No, and we're not. And again,
We're
all
not.
of this
I'm
is
just saying-
all of this is
That was complimentary. Bowden Barrett, excellent player. Ellie Kildunn, excellent player. However,
Excellent player.
if I was looking for like if I'm talking technicality,
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. I find
Right.
it frustrating. I don't like it. I don't understand. Has she always played fullback? She plays to me like a wing.
That's what I was going to say. Is she has
Absolutely.
absolutely played on the wing. I believe she's played on the wing at Harlequins.
she started off as a winger at Wasps, and she got her
At
first
Wasps.
couple of
Sorry, my bad.
caps for England on the wing,
Mm.
and then
I'm just curious to why.
moved to 15.
I just think it would be interesting because obviously we've got Jazz Joyce playing a fullback for Wales, which I think
She's not a fullback.
just don't like. I just don't like it.
But then again, she doesn't really play at Bristol as a fullback. She again plays the third winger for Bristol.
No, that is true.
Right. And well, so you're right. And that would, and we can't go down this road. You're right. And I think that that's a mistake for Bristol, but that's not this podcast. You're right. And it's because of Bristol's method of playing and Bristol's back coach. That said, I think Harlequins has a way better backs coach, and she is still utilized that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm not sure what else she has to offer, but either way, I think
thing to me that they don't try playing Emma and Ellie together. That's all I'm.
They did against Italy. She came on the wing.
She did.
Ellie did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In like the last 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Right. You're totally right. Yeah.
And nothing happened.
And yeah, not a lot happened. I mean, that particular one really frustrated me because a lot of people who come to me for fantasy advice were like, I've got Ellie in for my super sub, and I was like, think about it. Like, if she's on the bench at all, you know what England is telegraphing. But that was what we expected, and yeah, on the wing, and so that's a different conversation for a different time. But about the prowess and whether the prowess is necessarily always based on the player herself, or if it also has to do with playing with the Red Roses, which is a privileged position for anybody who plays any rugby position. You are bolstered by everybody around you. You're bolstered by the single most supported international side on the planet. And those will be questions for during and after the World Cup. We don't need to get into that now. But interesting to see Emma sing there. We're happy. This pod is happy to see it. I think that's going to pay dividends for them. She's probably going to be in my fantasy.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I also think it's really interesting that Maddie Feanati has been picked at 7. So an interesting kind of thing about this team is that John Mitchell picked this team for, so basically the way John Mitchell has picked the squad so far is that he's selected 2 teams at once. So Italy and whoever they played next was it was 2 together. So they knew 2 games at a time. Yeah. And then Italy and Wales, and then France, Scotland and
France. Yeah.
So they knew that they were having 2 games at a time. And then when it came for the France game, they only found out on Tuesday. And so this presumably is his A side. This is his absolute top best side.
This is his plan.
Yeah, this is chef's kiss. The only arguable one would maybe be Emma Singh because Ellie Cordon is out injured.
Right.
Sarah Byrne on the bench though?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. That's one of the only, in my opinion, humble things they did was admit that France can play an 80-minute game. We don't know if they will, and that's more on the current situation than it is as France as a monolith. But
and I also think Maud Muir has been excellent as well.
I also think she's been performing really well, and that was the right choice.
Yeah. But I think Feanati's probably the interesting one. They've gone with such a big back row, a really all back row.
I will defend it one way though, and I was thinking about it, and I didn't confirm it, and I really should have before I run my mouth like this. But I am relatively sure that Feanati does not uncommonly play 7 at Exeter.
Yeah, she does.
Right, and I think that may have been.
It's not weird that she's playing 7. It's just
for this side.
Yeah, I just think she hasn't played 7 in this Six Nations. Right. It's either been Packer or it's been Cabea. And then it's just a very tall back row.
Which, I mean...
And then both of the 7s that he's picked thus far have been dropped completely.
Yeah.
Well, I don't miss one of them, so I don't really care about that.
Yeah, interesting. And then forward Menage is out completely with injury, so that's quite sad.
Yeah, that is sad. Big ups to Ramon Menage. I'm really hoping that it wasn't a case of being pushed too soon. That is my personal concern. It's yet something else I don't think we'll ever get a confirmation on. I do hope that you weren't pushed. But I'm guessing, knowing the other problems that they're having, might have been the case. So speaking of pushing it, we will go to our last preview before we've got some more business. So the last one of the weekend is going to be Wales, Italy. I feel like we've like halfway already previewed this just by what we've said about both teams respectively.
Dreading this
I
game.
will. Yeah, I'm dreading this game. Here's what I'll say. We knew going into this, both by things that the team has said, that Linny has said, and the way that Wales has functioned in the Six Nations for the last several years, even under different coaches. We know this is the game they're targeting for their one win to not win the wooden spoon. I believe more this week than I did last week that this is a winnable game. However, I mean, I really wish we had the team sheets, but even knowing we know who is available, and have a rough idea of who is available for Italy. I think it can be won. I don't expect it, to be honest. And when we give our guesses in a second, I not to shock it, I don't think we're going to win. But that said, this is by far the most winnable of the five. I was challenging myself when I was writing the outline to think about like what we would need to make this a win. And I don't know. Because we haven't known week over week. We haven't known which Wales you're going to bring. Which is great because it makes you unpredictable. However,
I don't know. I just the way that the pack got murdered by Irish pack last week is really
is the problem.
me.
And Italy has a big pack, to be honest. It's one of their biggest strengths.
And Wales have always found, well, the last few games that we've played Italy in the last couple of years, we've struggled to break them down.
Yes. And the problem has been the pack before.
Yeah,
and that's when they were performing worse.
Yeah, I'm not I think Wales need to put better lengths of play together, if that makes sense. They need to be, we're putting in good phases in, but nowhere near long enough. I think Kira mentioned
we're not stringing things together, yeah.
Her BBC Wales reel that they're not putting in the 80 minutes performance. I mean, we're not even really, we probably did 40 minutes against France.
I was going to say, we're not hitting 60, and 60 has, even when we were having a bad time, we were aiming for 60 performance, and it wasn't.
Exactly. And we're never really doing well in the second half. So I'm a bit nervous about the way that we're feeding points.
I was going to say, we really need to figure out what is happening when we come out for second halves, because
100%.
I mean, yes, Wales has always been like a struggles in the second half or has an amazing second half. But at this point, like the second half isn't even reliable.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these different cogs that need to fit together, I think, for us to win. And I think the gap is too big at the moment for them to come together. That could be a massively pessimistic way of looking at it. It's not to say that we haven't been improving. I just think there's too much still to improve. I don't know. How do you feel, Hattie?
It could be. I think the thing is, with Italy and with Wales, they both have like on paper, they both have the same kind of issues. Like,
yeah,
both, if you look at stats wise, they both have terrible lineouts. Like, Italy literally have the worst lineout in the Six Nations. Wales have a very unpredictable lineout. They both have issues with like their ruck ball speed. They both like have just weird struggles around the park. It could either be a terrible game, like objectively really bad rugby, or it could end up being a really fun game to watch. And like, I have no idea which way it's going to go. I feel like it's going to be painful. And I just don't know, because I feel like I've watched Wales Italy games before and I've been like, this is a great game. And I've watched Wales Italy games before and I've been like, this is the worst game of rugby I've ever seen in my life.
Every rugby match,
and it is often really one, like,
it's
emphatically it is one of the other. Yeah.
And it's because they both, although they play very different styles of rugby, they both have the same problems. And I feel like now more than ever, they have the same problems. And they both blow so hot and cold.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And
my one concern is, yeah, I'm just checking to be sure. Yeah. So the one problem is we're playing in Italy, and Italy has this tournament been having a lot of luck playing at home.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
And Italy's home crowd has been going up.
Has been fantastic.
Yeah, so they're now getting better crowds in Parma than Zebre are, which well done to them. And it's just getting a bit. I don't know what it's going to be like on Sunday because obviously it's a move date and our
It's a weird time, really, isn't it, for Italy as well? I don't know if it's going to have any sort of psychological effect. There's going to be more,
our people.
And we don't know if they're gonna, and not that this matters that much, but there won't be a captain's run. I wonder if that matters. I doubt it, but it's a slight change.
Yeah, it's a slightly odd circumstance to have a test match, definitely. I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, on that note, then, since
we've already had a game without a captain's run this year, though, so
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. So that said, do we want to do, all right, let's really quickly do score predictions because our any other business is kind of fun. So score predictions, I am happy to start because I don't fucking know. All right, for Scotland, Ireland, I predict an Ireland win. I will say 25-10. 25-10. England, France, I predict an England win. I only think England is going to win by like 10-15. So let's say France 12, England 30. Why not? And Italy, Wales, I will say 2 Italy. I'm going to back the girls at least a little bit. And I will say 12 to Wales. It's kind of high. 12 to Wales. 22 Italy.
I think we've had 12 in every game.
Yeah, I think I just got 12 on the brain.
Scotland.
We've had either 12 or 14 in like every game.
Scotland was 20, wasn't? No, was it 20?
So we've got worse since then. Great.
Yeah, we peaked at Scotland, really.
Great.
Who's next?
But we played with 14 for most of the match.
Yeah, right.
So Georgia gets sent off again. No. No.
Sean, because of that, you have to go next.
I'm terrible at score predictions.
Yeah, I know. We're all bad at it. We're all women and we're terrible at math.
I am really bad at maths. What's the first game? I've already
Scotland, Ireland. Scotland, Ireland.
I think Ireland will win fairly comfortably against Scotland. I think it'll probably be something like 38-10. England, I think, are gonna win 35-15. Something like
That's
that.
a good one.
40.
That's a good one.
I can see it being a little bit closer, but I still think they'll win fairly comfortably.
Yeah.
Wales, I think Italy are going to win, but I think it might be a bit closer. I think it'll like 23-18 or something like that, or 15. Something.
Yeah, that's great.
But I could be completely those.
As we always warn.
As I always
Hattie.
Okay. Okay. So Scotland, Ireland. I'm going to say Ireland are going to take it, and I'm going to say like 41-17, I think. England, France. I'm going to say like, I think it's going to be really close. Well, close, but I think it's going to be relatively low scoring.
I really hope that's
France.
Hell yeah, I hope that's the case.
I'm really, yeah.
Like, I don't think it's going to be a big blowout. Like,
yeah.
I think it's going to be like 19-12.
Awesome.
I kind of hope so.
Italy, Wales.
Italy, Wales.
Go on.
I'm going to say, I'm going to be positive,
Wow.
and I'm going to say we're going to win, but it's going to be like by 1 point, but we're going to score less tries.
Ooh.
So it's
All
going to be
right.
like
Hell
a
yeah.
Kira Bevan kick at the death.
I take that.
So it's going to
All
be
right.
Italy.
I'm into that.
So like Italy, for example, score 4 tries, so they get 20 points, but we score 3 tries and convert them all.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah. All right. All right. I'm in for that. All right.
I don't know if
with,
I believe that. I just feel like one of us should be positive.
you should, and somebody needed to, and we always rely on it for you. So since we are coming up on time, we have some business, any other rugby business. So I'm gonna preface this just because I have two very big Welsh ball knowers. We have a what the fuck, that came in kind of coming up on when we were getting ready to record anyway. We don't know that much. However, you two please give us a very brief overview insight into the announcement that there will be no more Brython Thunder and Gwali Lightning for Celtic Challenge next year.
I think JD Vance has had
JD Vance killed the Welsh sides, but so if he did that, I mean, then we just wouldn't get to have teams at all. Oh no, I guess we have to pick the new teams with the smoke. So, give us some
Millennium Stadium.
one of you two give us a very brief overview of what has been announced, what we know, and then we can do like very quick pontification, pun intended. And we can go from there. So what was announced?
Basically, the WRU have announced that Brython Thunder and Gwalia Lightning are no more, RIP. And they are doing what they maybe should have done 2 years ago. And they are putting out the licenses for the Celtic Challenge to tender, questionable, and that the 4 men's regions in Wales will be able to bid on having a women's team. Having said that, if you do not keep up with men's rugby in Wales, Cardiff are kind of out of the question. So there are 4 men's regions, the Scarlets, which are in West Wales, you've got the Ospreys, which are Swansea, and then you've got Cardiff, which is Cardiff, and then you've got the Dragons, which is Newport. Cardiff recently went into administration, sorry, Sean. So although Cardiff have been named, I think we're all pretty much in agreement it's unlikely that it's going to be Cardiff.
Can I just say, interestingly, the WRU themselves called them clubs.
Yes.
Which I thought was really interesting. Sorry,
which is really rich, which is for another conversation, maybe with their rap friends.
But I'm like, whoa, hang on. But
but that's really rich.
Instead of clubs, but anyway. But in their press release about it, which was kind of odd, they basically said that, so they really bigged up Cardiff Met, which if you looked at the
makes sense.
Cardiff Met, you would assume that Cardiff Met was associated with Cardiff Rugby. It's not. It's associated with the Dragons in Newport. So I think we've all kind of the understanding that this probably means that the Dragons are getting a Celtic Challenge side. And the Dragons were previously affiliated with Gwalia Lightning, so this makes sense. And one of the kind of things that they said that they would like the regions to have was a affiliation with the university side,
which would fit really well for Cardiff Met,
fits really well for Cardiff Met and for the Dragons. Cardiff does have one with University of Cardiff or Cardiff Uni, which way around it is. And then if you head to West Wales, the Ospreys have that with Swansea. Swansea's not in Super Bucks, which is the highest level of women's rugby, university rugby. But the Scarlets doesn't, which me and Hugh, our lovely co-host / friend of the pod, Hugh Griffin, have kind of lamented, which seems a bit unfair, seeing as the Scarlets were kind of the
They
men
were the Finale
of
Scarlets.
Brisbane Thunder. So yeah, it is a bit potentially, it sounds like the way that they've worded it and the way they've put it out is maybe they've already decided who it's going to be. I think it's going to be the Ospreys and the Dragons.
You can tender, but
yeah, like, and the guy that runs the Ospreys has been so vocal about how he wants
Wanting
to
it.
decide, and like he was putting out that, so he used to be like the head honcho of Gloucester and Gloucester Hartpury, and he's been really vocal about like having the women's side and potentially being in the PWR, and or maybe, you know, having to be in the Celtic Challenge if you can be in the PWR and whatever. And it just feels like putting in that they're going to be, you know, having a whatever with the university side and the Ospreys kind of in the last couple of months talking about their links with Swansea. It just feels like,
It doesn't feel like a coincidence, does it?
no, it just feels like they've made
That's
their,
what I wanted you guys to say.
and
Yeah,
it kind of feels like a slap in the face to the Scarlets, who have been the like the Cardiff
Several senior players have come through Scarlets.
yeah, like the Scarlets have been like, they've had Brithon there for 2 years. They've been so supportive of the Celtic Challenge and Brithon. Like so many of the senior women's
and women's rugby in Wales.
yeah, like so many of like Alcal, Jazz Joyce, Alicia
Jazz
Bush,
Joyce, Alicia Bush,
um,
Beth Lou.
Beth Lou, Lisa Neumann. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
Fiona,
no, it's so many though. Fiona Sub.
Lakey George. I'm trying to think.
Oh,
Like, there's literally so many. They've all come through that pathway, and it just kind of feels like it's going to go to the Ospreys,
I feel like the whole thing is a bit
who've
weird.
not been involved in the Celtic Challenge up until this point at all.
Whatsoever.
Like I'm sad. I'm kind of like got into the Celtic Challenge now after 2 years. So I'm kind of like sad to lose the teams in a sense, because I've already started to
Absolutely.
sort of like have an affiliation for both sides now. It's not just Australia, but it's kind of like I kind of get. I think the team should be aligned to the Welsh clubs, right? I'm not against.
do.
I think that does make total sense. I just feel like the way it's all being done now is a bit chaotic and crazy.
It's all a bit WRU slapdash.
Why does it? I
It's
don't
so,
really get.
and the way that they've announced it suddenly, like they've just released their strategy. Nothing like was mentioned about this. Like if they had in there,
Because it's because it was absolutely something they came up with in the last like week.
Basically, yeah. If they'd come out and said, right, we want our Celtic Challenge teams to be aligned with
The line. Yeah.
If they'd actually set this out and say, right, the next 5-10 years, this is the plan, you know, I would be quite happy with this. But the way that it's been done with no sort of plan, I'm kind of all like, what do they want us to now form allegiances now for completely new teams? What in 2 years they're going to go again? Like I'm just.
That's the big thing for me, is that like, are you going to change this up again? Because there was no telegraph for any of this, that any of this was coming, it makes one wonder, like, are you going to do this again?
Yeah.
And players would wonder that too. If you want to start making this more formal, if you want to start making it a place that you can be playing pro rugby that isn't the PWR, which they have said they want to turn it into.
Exactly.
Is this what you are going to offer them? Because this does not encourage them.
And like, to be completely clear, like, I do think in the long run this is the best idea. Like, to have them aligned to the men's clubs, which, to be
It'll
fair,
absolutely
the regions originally
our
were not,
audience.
or the regions 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago were not men's clubs. Like, the regions were for men and women. The women were not pro, but like there were women's sides. So really we're going back to that. My issue is like the way it's being done is weird, and like it feels like
they've been shafted a little bit.
Yeah, like
it feels like a second thought again. Of
yeah,
like,
and
oh, by the way,
like the way it's been laid out, it does feel like they're going in with a preconceived notion of who it's going to go to. Like, why does it need to be with
just say it?
Like it, yeah. And like we all know, well, we know the problems with the URC sides as they are. We know that there are issues at the Ospreys with attendance and with sponsors. Well, the Scarlets, they have women-owned businesses who sponsor them. So surely that should be a thing that actually is a bonus for the Scarlets to have a women's side. Like, is that not a bonus for them? And like, I feel for Cardiff, because actually they would have been a better choice maybe
I was
than
just going to say, this could have
Dragons.
bolstered them. This really could have helped Cardiff.
But it is just the timing, I think, unfortunately, where it would just be kind of not great financially to take that on, which leads me on to my next point, is that the press release is really unclear.
Yeah.
So the press
Typical WRU.
Well, I was
there's like, sorry, I'm like completely talking over you because the it really makes me annoyed.
the whole thing made me mad.
It says
Who's
that
funding this? Is this WRU funding?
so
I'm confused
They
about.
didn't clarify.
they
Yeah,
did
that was the other
clarify.
thing. I'm like, you can't like.
So it says that the WRU is going to match spending, and it says that
Yeah.
they've quoted a figure of 200k, but it doesn't say whether
Who's 200K?
yeah, it doesn't say whether the clubs are expected to pay 200k and then the WRU will match 200k, so the total is 400k, or whether the clubs are expected to fund 100k and then the WRU match that, so the total is 200k. Like they haven't. So is the budget 200 or is the budget 400? Because 200
Right.
seems minuscule if it's supposed to be, as we've heard, next year is supposed to be 12 games. So that's 6 away games.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was my other question. Are we having 3 teams? Because the talk is that we're getting 3.
It does sound like 2.
It is only 2. It's like,
Yeah.
it's all chaos. It's chaotic.
And then it also says that the head coach is to be appointed by the WRU, but the support staff,
Why wouldn't you stick with the
etc.,
coaches there?
will be provided by the coach. The head coach, to be fair, that sounds like the way it is for the men's clubs.
Yeah.
It still doesn't fully make sense because is the head coach coming out of that 200k budget, or are they being
Are
paid
they paid by the WRU? Yeah.
by you? Because, for example, Ashley Beck, if he then becomes a coach again and he was already being paid by the WRU, like there's so many questions. But anyway, we'll find out in July.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing, is that the top line comment for this one is we only just found out about all of this today. It leads to a lot of questions. Please, if you're listening and you are inclined to care about this restructuring, go read that, see if you can figure out more. As always, we will have comments open. If you have any bright ideas, do let us know. Otherwise, it's just something to keep an eye on. It's something that we can definitely dive into more once we know more, and definitely, also the competition. So that said, other than the Women's Six Nations, which is what we've been doing today, most international sides and other club competitions are all kind of on pause or are in camp getting ready for various internationals. The Pacific Four is also coming up soon. Just a reminder for folks who may be new to women's rugby or new to this competition, the Pacific Four is the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's another competition quite similar to the Six Nations. Obviously, there's less, it's shorter. The first of the warm-ups for Pacific Four for America is USA versus Japan. That's this weekend. It's going to be on April 26th, which is Sunday. Unfortunately, it's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time here in America, so it will be 1:30 a.m. UK time. Otherwise, sorry, go on.
It's really inconsiderate, can't you have words?
It is, and as everybody knows, most of the USA and Japan fans can be found in the UK. That said,
probably won't.
Oh no, I am going to make both of you watch it on replay anyway, so I don't even care. Other than that, again, as I had just prefaced, most club competitions are either wrapped up now, so there's not a lot to comment on there. Otherwise, women's elite rugby, I was surprised to learn that there are matches this weekend because, again, the players are in camp. So what's going to be interesting is I think probably this is why the WER named expanded rosters. I am guessing that all of those people are now called up, which is great because you're only going to see teams playing without their Eagles. That could really level the playing field for teams like the Onyx. So that said, the matches we've got this weekend are the Gemini, which is Twin Cities Gemini playing the Breakers on Saturday, which is April 25th. It's going to be 7 p.m. Central Time, which is also unfortunately 1 a.m. UK time. But the Tempest I
So
know it's rude, but the
dare
Chicago Tempest will be playing Denver Onyx on Sunday at 2 p.m. Central, which is only 8 p.m. UK time. So no excuses. I know I'm going to be watching with you too. As always, all of those matches, even if you want to watch them on replay, which I really hope you do, especially the Onyx match, are always live and available on replay on DAZN, everyone's favorite named app. But that said, I couldn't think off the top of my head of anything else. So with that, does anybody else have anything?
I will say, I think the last Denver Onyx game, they played without their internationals and they still smashed them. So
Yeah, there is something to be said, and that will be for I'm kind of personally excited
and
for
they're
Women's
missing
Six
their head
Nations
coach
rep.
as well.
They are missing that. That was where I was going to go, is their head coach is also in the USA women's coaching setup, so she will also be gone. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm still excited to see how it goes. Particularly because I think, and by the way, I will just caveat, yes, the Onyx started without their Eagles, but they finished with the Eagles. But that said, I'm super curious how those go. I'm really excited. I really hope, as I always do, that if you're listening, you do check those out. At least give them a replay watch. It's super worth it. Rocky Clark is on her Great American tour.
Living her best life.
She is living her best life. She is on broadcasts explaining to the UK that it is hotter than she's ever felt in her life. Which I love, especially every time my beloved co-hosts tell me that it's hot. I'm like, it doesn't sound like you guys have heat like we do. So I'm learning a lot. I think you guys will too.
I did see the other day that her commentary was like an old man who has gone train spotting.
Hers was, or her commentary mate?
No, hers, and I mean that in the most
loving way. It's
it was
true.
Like, you know,
Rocky.
Francois, what's his face on TikTok, where he gets really excited by the trains.
Yes.
That, like, she's so excited.
That's exactly what it is. And I will tell people, if you didn't get to see that match last weekend, it was fantastic. And the reason that Rocky was getting so excited is because for the first like 20 minutes, it was just all scrums.
Yeah, it was just and then forwards just running through people.
Just running through people, which is something that you're going to get in WER that you don't necessarily get in other competitions. Especially if you're into like big old forwards who love to run, WER has a lot of that. And if you like backs tries, which I hear y'all like, we got those too.
I like both.
And WER have stepped up their social media game recently. I will say they're a lot more active on Blue Sky. And the other day I went on Instagram and they had their like good luck to all of our Eagles on like each of their Instagram pages. And it made me laugh because one of the teams just had one Eagle. And then
and it was the Exiles.
It was the Exiles. And then I went to the Onyx and you had to swipe because
you had to swipe. Okay. But you know what? And that's for a conversation for another time, but I'm very excited for that episode when we have it. Well, okay, so very briefly.
That's where the program's based, blah, blah, blah.
So the Denver Onyx, USA Rugby headquarters is right outside of Boulder in Colorado. So the teams that made up the Onyx were all the teams that all of the Eagles were playing for club because they all moved there to be closer to USAR. And
also where the really creepy airport is.
Yes, if you are an airport nerd, and I am just betting that the cross section of folks who listen to this pod are airport nerds. The Denver airport has a bunch of like lore and conspiracy theories, and then also one of the biggest ones was that there was like a Nazi bunker under it.
Yeah,
which is
I have heard that one actually. Now you mention it.
Yeah, and then outside the airport, it's got the insane horse statue where the horse looks like it's like unwell. It's got that as well. Denver, it has everything. It has USA Rugby. It's got the Nazi bunker, airport, and it has Mackenzie Hawkins.
What could you want?
What more could you want? And good Mexican food.
Oh, I thought you were
moving now.
Else, but
no. They're gonna have to give me sensitivity training on the podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening to the most canceled podcast in all of women's rugby, and you know, for all of the subversive women's rugby podcasts there are out there. It means a lot to us that you cancel us the most.
Yeah. all, 6 of the other women's rugby podcasts that there are. We're the most cancelable.
All the other ones wish they could get this canceled. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't canceled us already, thank you so much. As always, if you have any questions, reach out to us on any of our many socials, or just drop a comment here. We are all very chatty. If you know anything, please let us know. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us. Join us next time for a wrap up and a preview of whatever else is coming.